Every year, someone new is added to the FBI's most wanted list. Since its introduction, 535 fugitives have been added, and out of those 535, 496 have been apprehended or located. In today's video, we're going to be ranking each fugitive from the least to the most dangerous. This is FBI's most wanted killers. Hello, friend, and welcome to High Time Crime. My name's Joel, and on here I specialize in true crime and also frisbee. I'm a pro. But anyway, today we're going over some of the most dangerous criminals on the planet, each of whom has either directly or indirectly killed people as a result of their actions, at least allegedly. So without further ado, let's begin. Number 10, Eugene Palmer. 86-year-old Eugene Palmer is wanted for murder and unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. Eugene was born on April 4th of 1939 in the state of New York. He has a son named John, and John was previously married to a woman named Tammy. Together, the couple and their 2 children lived on a property owned by Eugene, while Eugene himself lived alone in the house next door. Now, by late 2012, the Palmer family was already in turmoil. John and Tammy's marriage was falling apart, and Tammy had filed for a restraining order against John and even threatened to file for divorce and sue for the land belonging to Eugene. All of this infuriated Eugene and set the stage for what followed. In late September, Eugene and his daughter-in-law, Tammy, got into a heated argument. And then a few days later, something terrible would happen. On the morning of September 24th of 2012, Tammy walked her children to the school bus stop. Meanwhile, only minutes before this, Eugene Palmer had grabbed a rifle, walked up to an area near the bus stop, and hid in a bush. So moments after the kids boarded the bus, Eugene popped out of the bush and shot Tammy multiple times from the area next to the bus stop. A neighbor heard the gunfire, called 911, and reported hearing loud screams followed by an eerie silence.
911, where's your emergency?
I heard a shot, a lot of screaming, another shot, no more screaming, and another shot.
Forensic evidence later revealed that the final shot Eugene fired at Tammy was at point-blank range as she lay on the ground. But after killing his daughter-in-law, Eugene Palmer, who was now the prime suspect, fled in a pickup truck, which was later found abandoned near Harriman State Park. As an experienced hunter and outdoorsman, Palmer knew the 47,000-acre park well, making it an ideal place to vanish. And despite extensive searches by the authorities, he slipped through the cracks. In 2019, the FBI ramped up efforts by adding Palmer to its most wanted fugitives list. Authorities suspect Palmer, now in his mid-80s, may be hiding in upstate New York or Florida where he has connections. The manhunt has seen significant efforts, including a 2021 raid on his granddaughter's home in Warwick, New York, based on a tip, though it yielded no results. So to this day, Eugene is still on the loose. Here is his physical description. Eugene Palmer is listed as 5'10" tall and weighing 220 pounds. He has gray, balding hair and brown eyes. He is a white male, and a distinctive feature is the deformation of his left thumb. The FBI is currently offering a reward of up to $100,000 for any information leading up to the arrest and conviction of Eugene Palmer. Number 9, Alejandro Rosales Castillo. 26-year-old Alejandro Rosales Castillo is wanted for first-degree murder and unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. Castillo was born on November 26th of 1998 in Arizona. In 2016, he was working at a Show Mars restaurant in Charlotte, North Carolina. One of his co-workers was a 23-year-old woman named Sandy Lai Lee. Castillo and Sandy had previously dated for a while, and at some point during their relationship, Sandy lent Castillo some money that he never ended up paying back. Then the couple broke up, and despite no longer being together, Sandy still wanted her money back. At the same time, Castillo began dating a new person by the name of Amiya Fiser, who was 19 years old and also worked at the Show Mars restaurant. But in August of 2016, Castillo was about to make his case for being one of the FBI's most wanted fugitives. On the 9th of that month, he texted Sandy telling her he wanted to pay her back her money. Together, the pair agreed to meet outside of a Quick Trip convenience store on Eastway Drive in Charlotte. So that afternoon, Castillo's girlfriend Fiser picked him up in her red Dodge Caliber and drove him to the meeting place. During the meeting between Castillo and his ex-girlfriend Sandy, investigators believe that Castillo forced Sandy to unload all of the money from her bank account at gunpoint. Afterwards, Castillo then drove Sandy to a wooded area in Cabarrus County before shooting her in the head, killing her, and then dumping her body in a ravine. And once he had done that, Castillo and Fiser then stole Sandy's black 2003 Toyota Corolla and drove all the way to a bus shelter in Phoenix, Arizona, before later crossing the border to Mexico. 2 months later, on October 20th of 2016, Fiser turned herself in to the Mexican authorities and was quickly extradited back to the United States. She claimed that she and Castillo had been staying with Castillo's cousins in Aguascalientes, but then during their stay, Castillo picked up and left yet again and has since disappeared. As of now, investigators believe that Castillo was still hiding in Mexico, possibly in the cities of San Francisco de los Romo or Pabellón de Arteaga in the state of Aguascalientes. He may also be hiding in the states of Guanajuato or Veracruz. Here is his physical description. Alejandro Rosales Castillo is a 5'6" white Hispanic male weighing approximately 180 to 190 pounds. His hair is black, often styled short and shaved on the sides. His eyes are brown. He is fluent in both English and Spanish. The United States is offering $250,000 for information that leads to his capture. Number 8. Alexis Flores. 49-year-old Alexis Flores is wanted for murder, kidnapping, and unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. Alexis was born on July 18th of 1975 in Honduras, but by 2000 he was living in Hunting Park, Philadelphia. Then, in the summer of the year 2000, Alexis was given a job as a handyman by a man named Jorge Contreras. At the time, Alexis told Jorge that his name was Carlos, and Jorge provided Alexis, aka Carlos, with shelter, food, and work. But on August 3rd of 2000, Alexis was suspected of doing something horrific. That day, a 5-year-old girl named Iriana de Jesus was found dead in the basement of an empty apartment building where Alexis had been staying at. And next to the girl's body, police discovered a t-shirt with her blood on it. So soon they questioned the apartment owner, Jorge Contreras, and he told the police that the shirt they found was the one he had given to the man whose name he thought was Carlos. So then Alexis, aka Carlos, became wanted for questioning by the authorities, and they created a police sketch of him. Meanwhile, though, he hadn't been seen in the area ever since the girl went missing. For years, the trail went cold, but then in 2002, Alexis began racking up a criminal record and putting himself on the police's radar. That year, he was arrested for shoplifting in Arizona. And then a few years after that, police were called to his residence in Phoenix due to a noise complaint. When police arrived at his home, they said he had a very welcoming attitude and was quite friendly. They did note, however, that when they entered his residence, they found pornography magazines all across the floor. But after Alexis provided the authorities with his identity documents, they soon found out that the papers he gave them were fraudulent. As a result, Alexis was arrested for possession of a forgery device, and soon after talking to police, he was officially incarcerated for 60 days before being deported back to Honduras in 2005. Then, in 2006, Alexis's DNA sample taken in Arizona was added to the combined DNA index system. And a year later, in March of 2007, it was positively matched to the DNA found at the crime scene in Philadelphia, meaning that Carlos and Alexis were of course the same person. And Alexis became the main suspect for the murder of Iriana de Jesus. He's now wanted for murder, kidnapping, and unlawful flight to avoid prosecution, but he may be armed and dangerous. Here's his physical description. Alexis Flores has black hair and brown eyes, stands at 5'4", and he weighs between 130 to 140 pounds with a slim build and light complexion. He has notable scars on his forehead and right cheek, and there was currently a $250,000 reward out for him. Number 7. Omar Alexander Cardinos. Omar Alexander Cardinos is wanted for murder and unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. On August 15th of 2019 in Silmar, a quiet neighborhood in Los Angeles, California, Jabali Dumas, a 46-year-old man, stood outside the Hair Icon barber shop. While Dumas was standing out there, Omar Cardinos allegedly approached him and without warning fired 9 rounds in his direction from a semi-automatic handgun. One of the bullets struck Dumas in the head and ended up killing him instantly. Afterwards, Cardinos is thought to have then fled the scene in his vehicle. Authorities believe he didn't even know Dumas and that the murder was entirely random. Cardinos is thought to be a member of the Pierce Street gang and also tied to the Pacoima Van Nuys boys, also known as Anybody Killers. His nickname is Dollar. In April 2020, the Los Angeles Police Department issued a murder warrant for Cardinos, and this was followed by a federal warrant in September of 2021 for unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. Now at age 30, Cardinos is believed to have fled to Mexico, though he may still lurk in Southern California where he has family and friends. Here is his physical description. Omar Alexander Cardinos stands between 5'6" and 5'7" and weighs anywhere from 240 to 300 pounds. He also wears thick glasses and has at least 1 tattoo. He's known to change his hair and beard to evade capture. The FBI warns he's armed and dangerous, and the award they're offering is up to $250,000 for information that leads to his capture. Number 6. Robert William Fisher. 64-year-old Robert William Fisher is wanted for 3 counts of first-degree murder, unlawful flight to avoid prosecution, and first-degree arson. Robert Fisher was born on April 13th of 1961 in Brooklyn, New York City. His father was a banker, and his mother's occupation is unclear. However, at the age of 15, his parents got divorced, and Robert and his 2 sisters relocated with their father to the state of Arizona. After high school, Robert was accepted into the United States Navy. He had attempted to become a Navy SEAL, but was unsuccessful. Then, at some point, he left the Navy and got a job as a firefighter. Around the same time, he also met a woman by the name of Mary Cooper at a church group they both went to. Robert and Mary got along quite well, and by 1987, they were officially married and living in Scottsdale, Arizona. Then, together, the couple had 2 kids, including 1 boy and 1 girl. The boy's name was Robert Jr., aka Bobby, after his father, while the girl's name was Brittany. Now, at some point, Robert got injured as a firefighter, and he was forced to retire. So afterwards, he changed careers and entered the medical field, first as a respiratory therapist, and then as a surgical catheter technician. Co-workers described Robert as quiet, but hardworking, and he was known for being an outdoorsman who liked fishing and hunting. Meanwhile, his behavior at home, however, was extremely controlling. Robert was very cruel and vindictive, and he and Mary got into fights on a frequent basis. Generally, these scuffles were over things such as and money. But during one fight the couple had, Robert reportedly soaked Mary with a garden hose after she spoke out of turn. And as far as the kids were concerned, Robert wasn't any better. Apparently, when he went to teach his son Bobby and daughter Brittany how to swim, he just threw them off of the boat and had to go pull them back in while they were screaming in terror. Some of Robert's hunting buddies also talked about strange experiences with him in that field of endeavor. Apparently, one time when Robert went hunting for elk, he killed one and then began smearing its blood on his face. And on another occasion, he snuck up behind a family that was picnicking and emptied his gun into the air. In addition to all of this weird stuff, in the interior of the Fisher family's home, Robert refused to allow many pictures on the walls and insisted that every wall had to be painted white. So all in all, Robert's behavior was not only controlling, but really strange and neurotic. On the outside, though, he continued to give the impression of a normal family man who had it all together. Every weekend, Robert and his family went to church and kept up appearances. But in the late 90s, his marriage to his wife Mary started to experience a rough patch. The arguments had become progressively worse, and people started to notice. According to some friends, Robert expressed a desire to do away with himself at one point in 1998. Then a few years later, he admitted to a coworker about an affair he had with he met in a massage parlor. Apparently, as a result of the affair, Robert had developed a UTI that kept him ill for several days in December of 2000. But eventually, the marriage between Robert and Mary just became so bad that in March of 2001, Mary started telling friends that she planned to get a divorce. Now, once Robert heard about this, he was just about ready to snap. Around 9:30 p.m. on April 9th of 2001, a neighbor reported hearing an intense argument going on between Robert and Mary. Now, this wasn't actually that uncommon. As we mentioned earlier, Robert and Mary oftentimes got into fights, and neighbors were used to hearing them by then. But then something unexpected happened. 10 hours after this particular fight, the Fiser family's home went up in flames and the house exploded. As a result, the frames of neighbors' homes were rattled and firefighters were called to the scene immediately. Before long, they were able to put out the fire, but inside was a house of horrors. Mary Fiser was found to have been shot in the back of the head, while Brittany and Bobby's throats were slashed from ear to ear. Meanwhile, Robert Fiser was nowhere to be found. Authorities believe that he set fire to the house by pulling the gas line from the back of the house's furnace and then using a lit candle to ignite the fire after the gas had accumulated enough. The intention was likely to both fake his own death and get rid of the evidence of the murders. But after Robert killed his family, he fled the home in his wife Mary's Toyota 4Runner and visited a nearby ATM in order to withdraw $280. Surveillance footage caught him doing this. But from that point, he then ditched the Toyota in Tonto National Forest. Inside the SUV, authorities found a hat that matched the one he was wearing on the ATM surveillance footage, but no sign of Robert himself. Underneath the SUV, however, there was the family's dog, Blue. Unfortunately, Blue was still alive, despite being a bit hungry, agitated, and scared. But the search for Robert continued and still continues to this day. Some people believe he ran off into one of the caves in the forest. Some people believe he wandered around the forest itself, and others believe he escaped by traveling through a nearby Indian reservation called the Fort Apache Reservation. This was only about a mile away from where the SUV was found, and there were footsteps leading up to its entrance. But after following these footsteps, police found no sign of Robert. As for the caves, well, some of the caves did lead to an underground network where Robert theoretically could have temporarily hidden, but professional cavers have searched many of the caves and never found any evidence of Robert having done so. Other theories for what happened to Robert and where he is now include him doing away with himself, him changing his identity and starting a new life, and him escaping across the southern border. Wherever he is, Robert Fiser is considered armed and dangerous and has ties to Florida and New Mexico. Here's his physical description. Robert is 6 foot tall, about 190 pounds, with a medium build, light complexion, brown hair, blue eyes with surgical scars on his lower back, a gold crown on his upper left bicuspid tooth, and a habit of chewing tobacco. He may walk with an exaggerated erect posture due to a back injury. The United States is offering $100,000 for information that leads to his capture. Number 5. Jason Derek Brown. 55-year-old Jason Derek Brown is wanted for unlawful flight to avoid prosecution, first-degree murder, and armed robbery. Jason was born on July 1st of 1969 in Los Angeles, California, into a devout Mormon family. He was raised in Laguna Beach and grew up surfing, skiing, and riding dirt bikes. Personality-wise, Jason was intelligent and superficially charming. In school, he got good grades and attended Laguna Beach High School before later earning a master's in international business from the Monterey Institute. From 1988 to 1990, he served a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Paris, where he became fluent in French and became good at persuasion. All in all, Brown gave the appearance of a good, upstanding citizen. But beneath his clean-cut facade, he was actually a deceitful scam artist. By the 1990s, Brown had created a flashy lifestyle for himself with sports cars, boats, and jet skis, all funded by scams. While in Salt Lake City, he ran sham businesses with names like Toys Unlimited and on-the-doorstep advertising. And he did it all from his home, posing as a wealthy entrepreneur. He'd charm car dealers with fake IDs, drive off with luxury vehicles, and fleece banks with fraudulent checks, racking up tens of thousands in debt by 2004. Additionally, he was thought to have been engaged in petty thefts and home invasions. Then, in November of 2004, Brown bought a .45 caliber Glock pistol. Days later, he took a firearms instruction course at Totally Awesome Guns and Range in Salt Lake City. Surprisingly, Brown cleared a background check and provided fingerprints, which were ultimately forwarded to state and federal agencies. His firearms instructor called him an obnoxious student, noting his lack of gun handling skills. During a training session, Brown unintentionally shot a bullet into a truck and later compensated the owner with about $1,300. At the time, he was staying at a hotel in Ahwatukee, Arizona. Security footage caught him chatting with another man in the lobby, a figure police view as a potential accomplice or witness. Then, on November 29th of 2004, his sociopathic behavior turned deadly. In Phoenix, Brown allegedly ambushed an armored car guard by the name of Robert Keith Palomares outside an AMC theater. In total, he's thought to have fired 6 shots at Keith, 5 of which were to the head. He's also accused of stealing $56,000 before escaping on a bike. Fingerprints tied him to the crime, and he fled the scene. Brown then arrived in Vegas, where he swapped his car for a Cadillac. And the following year, in 2005, he showed up in Portland, where he abandoned the Cadillac. Jason Derek Brown was officially added to the FBI's most wanted list in 2007, and he's eluded capture since a 2008 sighting in Salt Lake City. Now at age 55, he may be hiding in France, Mexico, or a Mormon enclave. There have been multiple episodes of TV shows and even a theatrical movie made about Brown, and his case is well known. Here's a physical description. Jason Derek Brown is a white American male who stands around 5 foot 10 inches tall and weighs anywhere from 170 to 180 pounds with a medium build and light complexion. His hair is blonde and his eyes are green. As of right now, there is currently a $200,000 reward for information that leads to Brown's capture. Number 4. Vilm Innocent. 39-year-old Vilm Innocent is wanted for hostage-taking, conspiracy to commit hostage-taking, conspiracy to commit hostage-taking resulting in death, and attempted hostage-taking resulting in death. Vilm Innocent was born on March 27th of 1986 in Haiti, and despite his last name, he's far from it. After starting out as a political activist in Haiti, Vilm became the leader of a gang known as the Croix Barriere Gang. Now, this is just one of the many gangs in Haiti. The Croix Barriere Gang is part of a large gang alliance known as the Vilm Innocent Coalition. And on top of the one we just mentioned, this coalition includes a few other major gangs, such as the G9 Family and Allies, G-PEP, and 400 Mawozo. After forming in February of 2024, Vilm Innocent reportedly massacred over 180 people in December of 2024. Then, in April of 2025, Vilm Innocent stormed the police station and prison in the city of Mibale and set the buildings on fire and freed around 500 prisoners. Overall, Vilm Innocent currently controls 80% of metropolitan Port-au-Prince, which is the capital of Haiti. But Vilm, more specifically, is charged with an incident that took place in 2021. That year, his gang, along with the 400 Mawozo gang, kidnapped 17 Christian missionaries, including 5 kids near Port-au-Prince. In total, they held them for 61 days while demanding millions in ransom. Vilm is also tied to the 2022 kidnapping of an American couple. In that incident, on October 7th of 2022, Vilm's gang, Cross Barrier, kidnapped an American couple, Jean and Mary Odette Franklin, from their home in Haiti. During the attack, Mary was shot and killed, while Jean was abducted and held for 21 days. The gang initially demanded $8,000 in ransom, but Vilm raised it to $150,000 before settling on a lower amount for Jean's release on October 28th. Then in 2023, Vilm was tied to the murder of 4 police officers in Haiti. He was also linked to the 2021 assassination of former Haiti President Jovenel Moïse. Vilm is currently in Haiti, and here is his physical description. Vilm Innocent is a black Haitian male who has a height range of 5'7" to 5'10". He weighs 150 pounds, and his hair is black while his eyes are brown. The United States is offering $2 million for information that leads to Vilm's capture. Number 3. Fausto Eedro Meza Flores. 42-year-old Fausto Eedro Meza Flores is wanted for conspiracy to manufacture and distribute 500 grams or more of methamphetamine, distribute 5 kilograms or more of cocaine, distribute 1 kilogram or more of and distribute 1,000 kilograms or more of for importation into the United States and use and possession of a firearm. Fausto Eedro Meza Flores was born on June 19th of 1982 in Navojoa, Sonora, Mexico, and his nickname is El Chapo Eedro. Not much is known about his early years, but by the 1990s, as a teenager, he was already stepping into the world of organized crime. Fausto started out with the Juarez cartel under Amado Carrillo Fuentes, a kingpin nicknamed the Lord of the Skies. But after Fuentes died in 1997 after a botched plastic surgery, Fausto left that cartel and aligned himself with the Beltran Leyva cartel, which at the time was a rising power in Mexico's trade. Here, Fausto proved his worth as a skilled hitman, and his loyalty paid off. Before long, he had become a trusted lieutenant to Alfredo Beltran Leyva, one of the head leaders of the Beltran Leyva cartel, which was started by Alfredo and 3 of his brothers. By the late 2000s, the Beltran Leyva cartel was one of the strongest cartels in Mexico, but in 2008, Alfredo was arrested. Soon, the remaining brothers blamed El Chapo Guzman and the Sinaloa cartel for selling Alfredo out. This in turn sparked a brutal war between the 2 organizations, and Fausto, who was now a key player, stayed loyal to the Beltran Leyva family. Soon he took charge of Los Mozart Lacos, an enforcer group based in Sinaloa, and turned it into his power base. Then in 2010, he made headlines with a bloody ambush in Tubutama, Sonora, where his men clashed with Sinaloa cartel gunmen, leaving nearly 30 people dead just miles away from the United States border. Over time, Fausto's rivalry with El Chapo Guzman led to years of kidnappings, executions, and chaos in Sinaloa. But eventually, Fausto had built his own empire, known as the Meza Flores Transnational Criminal Organization, or TCO. This group, which operates out of Sinaloa, is a heavily armed organization that smuggles massive amounts of meth, heroin, and fentanyl into the United States. We're talking planes, boats, and tractor-trailers moving across borders. But in 2012, Fausto was indicted in Washington, D.C. for trafficking and firearms charges. And by 2013, the Treasury Department had frozen his assets and those of his family under the Kingpin Act. Then in February 4th of 2025, Fausto, now 42, was officially added to the FBI's 10 most wanted list. He's believed to be hiding in Mexico, maybe in Sinaloa or Nuevo León, where he was last spotted in 2013 at a youth basketball game. Here's his physical description. Fausto Eedro Meza Flores is a 5'6" Mexican white Hispanic male who weighs about 160 pounds with dark brown hair and brown eyes. The reward for Fausto is currently $5 million. Number 2, Yulan Adunai Archugga Carayas. 43-year-old Yulan Adunai Archugga Carayas, also known as El Porky, is wanted for racketeering, trafficking, and machine gun possession. Carayas was born in San Pedro Sula in 1982, and he's now the supreme leader of MS-13 in Honduras, one of the worst gangs in all of South America. Carayas is accused of running a criminal empire that pumps tons of cocaine into the United States, arming gang members stateside, and ordering hits on rivals. On February 13th of 2020, his reign took a wild turn. After being arrested in 2015 for money laundering, he was in custody until that day when he was moved by van to a courthouse in El Progreso, which was about 28 kilometers from San Pedro Sula. Overall, the security at the courthouse was lax, with few guards and no heads up to military police, which was in and of itself a breach of protocol for such a high-profile prisoner. Additionally, these type of prisoners are supposed to be transported by helicopter, but as we said, Carayas was transported by van. So shortly after Carayas arrived, over 20 MS-13 gunmen disguised in military police uniforms and wielding assault rifles stormed the building. They then unleashed a barrage of bullets, killing at least 5 people, some of whom were police officers. Meanwhile, the group used a decoy prisoner in handcuffs, which added to the chaos, and in the process, Carayas successfully slipped away. As of now, the FBI believes he's hiding in Honduras, and he is, of course, incredibly armed and dangerous. Here is his physical description. Yulan Adunai Archugga Carayas is a white Hispanic Honduran national who is about 5'5" tall and weighs 160 pounds with black hair and brown eyes. The United States is offering $5 million for information that leads to Carayas' capture. Number 1, Ryan James Wedding. 43-year-old Ryan James Wedding is wanted for conspiracy to distribute and possess with intent to distribute controlled substances, conspiracy to export, continuing criminal enterprise, murdering in connection with a continuing criminal enterprise and crime, and attempt to commit murder in connection with a continuing criminal enterprise and Ryan Wedding was born on September 14th of 1981 in Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada. His family is wealthy, and they owned a ski resort where Ryan was able to hone his skills at snowboarding. By the age of 12, he was already a very talented snowboarder, and throughout the course of his career, he had multiple impressive achievements, including a few bronze and silver medals. Ryan's nickname was the Giant because of his large frame at 6'3" and 240 pounds. In 2002, Ryan officially represented Canada as part of their snowboarding team in the Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City, Utah. Here he competed in the giant slalom event, but then later that year, he was cut from the team unexpectedly. And over the next decade, he officially made the transition from professional snowboarder to becoming the leader of a massive underground criminal network. But first, Ryan started out small. Originally, he sold before expanding his operations over time. Then in 2010, there was a bit of a hiccup for him when he was convicted of attempting to buy from a United States government agent. But after serving 4 years in prison, Ryan went right back to his old habits. According to prosecutors, Ryan has connections to some of the most dangerous criminals in the world, such as ex-Russian KGB agents, Hezbollah-connected narco-terrorists, and the Sinaloa cartel. Over the span of more than a decade, Ryan is thought to have turned his operations into a $1 billion empire, along with the help of several of his criminal allies. Some of the key figures in his group were an Indian trucking magnate, a Toronto hitman, Russian mobsters, a man named Nahim Jorge Bonilla, who was a music executive known as the One, and who investigators believe was negotiating deals as the owner of the Miami Beach hotspot Mandrake. And lastly, Ryan's childhood friend named Andrew Clark, who was second in command, known by his nickname, the Dictator. The authorities believed Ryan's operation moved massive quantities of across North America, particularly from South America to Canada. And somewhere along the way, he became so ruthless that he began ordering hits for anyone who stood in his way. Overall, Ryan Wedding is accused of at least 4 separate murders. One of the most tragic incidents occurred in November of 2023 in Ontario, Canada. A hitman hired by Ryan's organization mistakenly targeted Jagtar and Harbhajan Sidhu, an innocent couple visiting their daughter. The intended target was a courier who had fled with a shipment, but in a horrific case of mistaken identity, the assassin shot the Sidhus instead. Their daughter, Jaspreet Kaur Sidhu, was also caught up in the attack and suffered 13 gunshot wounds. Miraculously, she survived, but she later recalled the memory of hearing her mother's screams as the rest of her family was murdered. Another murder linked to Ryan took place in May of 2024 in Brampton, Ontario, when a man named Mohammed Zafar was killed as retribution for a drug debt. But in that case, the killer actually did successfully target the person they were looking for. Now, the federal operation to catch Ryan and his network is cleverly named Operation Giant Slalom. And in October of 2024, Wedding's second-in-command, Andrew Clark, was arrested in Mexico and extradited to the United States. In total, after launching Operation Giant Slalom, the authorities have now captured 14 out of 16 of Ryan Wedding's network of criminals. But as of now, Ryan himself has yet to be caught. He's thought to be likely hiding somewhere in Mexico and is now a high-ranking member of the Sinaloa cartel, the largest cartel in Mexico. His nicknames are El Jefe, Giant, or Public Enemy. Here is his physical description. Ryan James Wedding is a Canadian national who is 6'3" tall with a weight of about 240 pounds. He has brown hair and blue eyes, no scars, tattoos, or marks are noted. There is currently a $10 million reward for information that leads to Ryan's capture. If you have information about any of these 10 people, please call the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI or submit a tip online at tips.fbi.gov.